Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strong Start Sundays. My name is Dr. Rachel Edeweckert, and I am so excited to see all of you tuning in tonight. We are so happy to have you. I would love for you to come into the chat box, let us know who you are and where you are tuning in from. I already see Constance Sherrod. Is so great to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in from Mississippi tonight. We're so excited to have you. And I am incredibly excited to have my friend and special guest, Dr. Sonia Matthews, on with us tonight. She is an incredible friend and thought leader from Southern Maryland, representing there, but by way of Canada. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about her before we get started tonight. Dr. Sonia Matthews is a nationally board certified teacher. She is also Maryland's Distinguished National Assistant Principal of the Year, and she is currently serving as assistant principal at Mary B. Neal Elementary School in Charles County, Maryland. Welcome, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so exciting to be here with everyone.
Yes. So, you already know tonight is all about just making sure we're taking time to ourselves to pause and reflect on the work that we're doing. So excited to see you, Lauren. So great to see you joining from Long Island, New York. So happy to have you here tonight. And just thank you for joining in our conversation tonight. We are all about making sure that this is a collaborative, safe space for teachers and leaders to share what is working and also to share some ideas when things may not be working. Because let's be honest, it is hard out here. It is hard to be a school leader. It is hard to be a teacher right now. But that's part of why we started this platform, is so that we have an opportunity to share ideas and talk about what is working collectively and what we can do better to serve our students, staff, and families. Now, if you have not had an opportunity to pick up your copy of Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to School Leadership, I encourage you to please pick up your copy today. It is available on Amazon and it is a bestseller. You can get it right now wherever books are sold. And Dr. Johnson and I are just so excited to continue to share this work with you. It is so important that as leaders, we remember that we are serving our staff first, right? When our staff are well taken care of, our students are well taken care of. So thank you so much for your support. Now, Dr. Matthews, I would love to know something that you are excited about in this coming week before we get started.
Well, first of all, I have my book as well, and I'm excited to have it. I'm excited about, seeing the joy in my scholars' faces as I walk down those hallways, because I can always look forward to seeing those faces. And we know it can get hard, but when we go into those hallways and we're looking at those faces, that joy in those faces is everything. So I'm really looking forward to that this coming week for sure.
Awesome. The children's joy, like you said, is everything. And that is definitely something that I'm looking forward to as well. This week is American Education Week. And this is an opportunity for students and families to come together, come into the school and see some of the great things that are happening all across schools in America. So I'm really excited to welcome all of our families and community members in. We each of our grades has something a little special prepared for our families, where it's going to be an interactive process where families can come in and really take part in the learning alongside their children. So I'm really excited to welcome families in all week. And then after that, Dr. Matthew, I don't know about you, we have our fall conferences coming up. Or do you all have conferences coming up too?
We just had them last week, actually. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
So we're done with those. Yes.
Yeah. So this is just a busy time of the year. Mm-hmm. And we know we're all looking forward to that upcoming Thanksgiving break that's coming up. And so we felt that this episode and session was the perfect time to slow down and to really think about what is working and what may not be working. And understanding that we have that latitude to make a change if we need to, while still keeping up our momentum. So that's really what we want to focus our energy on tonight. And we're going to be sharing 3 important strategies with you to help you really assess where you are in your leadership and what we might want to do to pivot to be even better. So I want to share a quick story about why I was thinking about this topic. Over the summertime and really at the end of last school year, I started to reflect. That's our time when we begin reflecting about what changes we want to put into place for the following school year. And one of the things that I was thinking about was how I could utilize my coaches. We have a math coach and we have a literacy coach and we have our administrative team. And in my previous school, I didn't have those positions. So I really wanted to think about how we could leverage that better. And so in the coming year, I thought we need time to sit down as a smaller core team and calibrate before we push out into teams, because that was something that I know I wanted to do, but to be honest with you, time got away from me all the time. And schools run quickly. Dr. Matthews, schools run. And so I wasn't quite able to grasp that time with that team. So one of the things that I thought about doing was getting all of those dates on the calendar over the summertime and making sure that I had time to meet with our literacy coach, our math coach, our assistant principal, and myself as principal, so we could calibrate that learning before we pushed out instruction to our teams. And I'm so happy that we did that change, because that is a positive change that has really impacted our leadership in a great way. So, Dr. Matthew, can you think of something that you put into place that is working really well that you can reflect on?
Definitely. So we are really, really focusing on our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions and keeping track of those interventions in the area of SEL. So one of the things that I've been able to do is really stick to our follow-up calendar and checking in with my teachers. So yes, we track our data, we do the progress monitoring, but checking in with the teachers to make sure that they are not only doing the progress monitoring, but what kind of support do they need? So being very intentional about not just letting the teachers do it on their own, but supporting them incrementally along the way, because sometimes we know that they can become very discouraged. So for me, it's being intentional, following through, but not just at those checkpoints, but also along the way. So I'm really proud of that work that we've done with that.
I love that. And that is so true. It's not just enough to do those checkpoints all the time. We do need to take that extra effort and time to go back and to make sure that people have what they need. So thank you so much for sharing that reflection. And I'm glad that's going amazing. I know it's making a huge difference for you and your principal and all the teachers in your building. So thank you for your leadership there. I want to share our first strategy, and that really is about conducting an audit of what is working well and what needs to be changed. So strategy 1 is really thinking about how can we gather information? And Dr. Matthews knows I'm really big on feedback. And I know you are too, Dr. Matthews. So one of the first things I want us to think about is identifying 3 things that are going well. So Dr. Matthews just said what she's doing well, her tier 2 and tier 3 check-ins and interventions. I shared that what's going well for us is having that time to calibrate and meet with our literacy and math coach before we meet out with our remaining team leaders and our teachers. And so I want you to think about in the comments, add one thing that's going well, something that you put into place this year, you thought about it over the summertime, and it is working. I want you to share that. And while you're sharing in something that is working for you, I want you to think about what may not be working. And this is the harder one, right? Because there are definitely things that may not be working. I'm going to be very, very transparent and sharing. In the beginning of the year, my assistant principal and I sat down and we thought about how can we use our walkie-talkie system a little bit better, right? And I know, Dr. Matthews, I saw you on social media. You had talked about those walkie-talkies, right? And so we had this grand idea that we were going to put ourselves on shifts with the walkie-talkies so that someone was always available to respond and the other person was always available to either be out in classrooms or to be doing some sort of instructional leadership or meeting with a family, those sort of things. Well, what has happened is that we are getting multiple calls at the same time. And so we needed to go back and really think about how else we can utilize a system. Who else can we bring in to our systems of tiered support so that we are not running all day by these walkie-talkies? So that is definitely a reflection point for us and thinking through. We haven't quite figured it out yet, right? We're all about being honest. We're not there yet. We haven't quite figured it out, but we're working towards systems and putting people into place and supports for students so that we have more time back to ourselves. Dr. Matthews, what's something that you are not quite there yet, that you're still working on, you're still in process?
Well, I would say with my teacher feedback. So going into the classrooms, trying to get into the classrooms, which I tend to do first thing in the morning when it's not so busy. It's calmer in the mornings. And going back and really closing those feedback loops with my teachers. Sometimes it's not always as consistent as I would like. So we know that feedback needs to be timely. It needs to be really job embedded so that teachers can go back and kind of do that right away, do those things that we have given them as feedback, those steps, those action steps. So I would like to do better with just being able to do more of those feedback meetings with my teachers. Still doing them, but just not as much as I would like to. It's not that easy getting into classrooms, as we know, because of the radios, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, I definitely want to lift up that Constance Sherrod said one thing that's going well for her is providing feedback on lesson plans and observations. So that is amazing, awesome. Constance. And thank you, Sean. Yes, we are in the power of yet. We're not quite there yet, but we are still working towards that. So thank you for that. I also want to share, so step one, we've identified things that are going well. Step two is identifying some areas where we need to improve, which we just shared. And step three is getting that feedback from our staff. And I talk about this a lot. This is my 7th year in the principalship. And each of those years, I do an anonymous survey every single year around October, November to find out what is working and what needs to shift. And the reason why I do it around that time frame is because the newness of the school year has worn off by October into November. And that's the time when we really can pull that first layer back off and honestly say, this is working and this is not working. So it's important to take that time to get that feedback, asking your staff a simple question. What do you want to start doing? And what do you want to stop doing? Right? And you can get so much great feedback just by asking those 2 questions. And what I like to do is provide a summary of all of the feedback that I get from staff. And then my assistant principal and I and our leadership team will work together on solutions for some of those things. And then we'll say, here's our next step. So it's not just enough to ask for the feedback. We have to have those follow-up steps to let our staff know that we're taking it seriously and that we are prepared to pivot. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And I want to challenge you to think about how you can get meaningful feedback from your staff and make it actionable for improvement. Dr. Matthews, anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree. And I love all the comments. I'm seeing so many friends out there, Lauren and Sean and Otis. Thank you so much for joining. So definitely the consistency of the work that we do and prioritizing that time in the classroom. And I think also about relational intelligence. Hey, Principal Kafele. I think about relational intelligence and really when we're in those classrooms, what kind of deposits are we making into our teachers and our scholars? So that when it comes time for those difficult conversations in that feedback space, that we have already invested and we have cultivated that trust with our scholars and teachers. Hey, Jeffrey. I had to say hello.
No, this is good. I'm so excited. Principal Kafele and Sean and Jeff and Lauren and Otis and Chris. This is the crew. So we're just so excited to have all of you here. It's making our whole night. So that's strategy 1 is really just looking at how you can conduct an audit of your time and making sure you are taking a moment to stop and pause and reflect and make some changes. Our second strategy is really rooted in recalibrating your time and your focus. What does your calendar look like right now? I can tell you when I open my calendar up, I have like bing, 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 meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And you all know I set a goal at the beginning of the school year to eat my lunch. Who remembers that one? Because that was from our very first episode. I started off really good. And yes, the lunchtime is not happening. I know I need to make some changes to my calendar to really recalibrate and thinking about my priorities. So I want you to think about your priorities. Does your calendar reflect your priorities? I'm going to just pause there. Dr. Matthews, what can you add?
I love that you pause. I'm just thinking about that calendar. I'm thinking about the intentionality about our time, even to the minute, because we know that when we're thinking about our time for the day and we're well planned out, it's not going to go as planned. But if we can at least try to stick to that calendar, and when we're pivoting, we know that we're also prioritizing, because we have put those prioritized needs at the top of our list for the day, and we're not going to miss it, right? So even with our planning, we're also prioritizing. That is critical, because anything can happen, as we know, in the schoolhouse.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Constance, thank you for sharing that. You know, this is a time for transparent and honest conversations. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Even with best intentions and best laid plans, our calendars can get very tricky, especially this time of year, because Dr. Matthews and I were saying, you know, we're like this all the time. Run, 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 run. Day in, day out. We start the day like this and we end the day like this. And so when we are constantly moving, we don't have that think time to say, wait a minute, hold on. Do I need to respond to this right now? Wait a minute. Do I need to take this call right now? Wait a minute. Is there something else I could do to prioritize my day? So as we are moving through this conversation, I want you to be thinking about how we can really reclaim that time. And that's what it's about. You know, years ago, there was a very famous, I'm reclaiming my time. I'm reclaiming my time. How can we reclaim our time in a way that respects our teachers and our staff, but also respects the work that we need to do as school leaders and as teachers? So one of the things is thinking about, we cannot tomorrow say, I'm clearing my whole schedule. I'm no longer doing A, B, and C. That's not realistic. But what we can do is look at areas very carefully where we can make a shift, where we can make a small shift. So for me, it's lunch. How can I accomplish having a lunch and still doing what I need to do throughout the day? That's my question for myself. How can I do that? Because in the beginning of the year, I promise you, I was doing it. And then it got busier. So now my challenge to myself is, how can I insert that 20-minute time in my day to sit down and have a meal? It's very basic, but it's so important. Dr. Matthews, what about you?
I just agree with everything you said. And I think it's also important to have those boundaries and to let our people know that, you know, there's times in the day when you're just not going to be available, and tell them why. And I found that teachers really do respect that, because they know that you are busy. You know, they see you. So really, even with the radio, if you're in a meeting, hey, I'm off the grid and this is why. But then you have a system in place for who they could reach out to if needed, such as a school psychologist or counselor.
Yes, I love that. I love that advice. Thank you for that. Again, who else, right? Because we cannot do this job by ourselves. That's something that I strongly believe. I know Dr. Matthews strongly believes that if we are going to sustain ourselves in a way and honoring ourselves so that we can come to school with the energy that we need to serve. We need to make sure that we are able to serve in the best way possible. So I really appreciate that advice, Dr. Matthews, of saying, here's the why behind why I need to eat a lunch. Here's the why behind why I cannot be at every call every time, because I also need to be in classrooms providing feedback that's important to teachers. I also need to make phone calls to families. I also need to make sure that I'm available for my own children should they need something, right? Or if I just want to spend time with them. So I really appreciate that advice. And we're going to shift. I can't believe that's already 20 minutes have passed. I told you it goes fast.
Yes.
We have 2 minutes left, so we're going to finish strong here. Our third strategy is reconnecting with people. That's our third strategy for pausing. When is the last time you did a genuine check-in with someone in your building? Not just a, how are you? Good, great, bye. No, that doesn't count. When is the last time you had a real conversation with someone on your team who needed that, right? And it might not be a very long conversation, but it's important that our teachers and staff know that we are here and available and that we are tuned in to the needs. And thank you, Principal Kafele, for that. We can't overstate that significance of planning and time management and organization. That's so important. But the people piece is equally important here, because the fact of the matter is we are going into a holiday season and the stress is real. The stress is building. Again, we have American Ed Week this week, then we have conferences, then we're going right into a break. And most people will say, oh, I'm so excited for this break. I get to relax. But the truth is there are people in our buildings right now who are highly stressed. The holidays may not be a very exciting time for them. We have students and families in our buildings who are struggling right now, who may need food, who may need resources, who may need clothing. It's a very, very stressful time of year. And so I want us to remember that and take the time to talk with people, even if it's a 10-minute conversation. How are you feeling? I see that you're not looking like yourself right now. Are you okay? I've had more of those conversations over the past 2 weeks than I've had all year, because this is the time to focus on people. Dr. Matthews, what can you add?
I could not agree more. I was just looking at the chat from Lauren about how, just with emails, which emails can we actually not respond to, but go and talk to that person individually? Because we know some emails are just better that way. And also, I think it's important to, again, going back to relational intelligence, I keep going back to that, because if we have the opportunity to make those deposits in the simplest ways, that's what people want the most. They want our time. They don't necessarily want the little, pieces of candy. They want our time. They want us to listen. They want us to empathize with how they are feeling. They want to be seen and heard. Right. And know that we care. So I think that's the most important thing that we can do, is continue with that relational intelligence with our people. That is golden.
Yes. And Sean, thank you for this reminder. We also need to reconnect with people who know us and love us, right? Even beyond our staff members and our students, and of course, the wonderful families that we serve, but our own families need our time and attention. And you all know I'm very, very big on those personal boundaries. It is how I have a healthy marriage. It is how I have thriving children. It is the same with Dr. Matthews. We have to put the time in and invest in our family and our friends, the same way that we put our time and invest in other people, right? So that's really important to remember, and not to feel guilty about that. There is nothing to feel guilty about taking time to connect with those who love us and who cherish us and who we cherish. same thing. And so if you are struggling in that area, or if you just want some new ideas, that is why we wrote this book. This book is really about people, and it is about connecting with people in a way that is authentic and that they will remember. And so if you don't have your copy of Relational Intelligence, please pick it up. It is right on the bottom of our screen. If you need to know where to get it, it's on Amazon at teachergoals.com/intelligence. And thank you, Principal Kafele. Yes, pick up this book. Thank you so much. John, you've got to get it. You do. You need to get it. It's a great book. Dr. Johnson and I really put a lot of time into making sure that we know as school leaders, we cannot control budgets. We cannot control staffing. We cannot control the overhead things that are happening in central office, state, federal, and beyond. But what we can control is how we treat people. Yeah. We can control how we interrelate with our teams and how we build relationships with everyone we serve. And so that is why this book is so valuable and is so important. With just a few minutes left, we want to close out with this reflection question as you're walking away. What's something that you are ready to put away, a leadership strategy that's not quite working right now, and then something you want to start, something new that you really want to put into place? Dr. Matthew, what is your thoughts on that? Something that you may want to stop or something you want to start?
So I said at the beginning, what really brings me joy is when I'm in those hallways and I see the faces of our children and they are like, Dr. Matthew, and it makes me just feel so happy. And I need that because when we're so inundated with all of those mandates that we have to do, we tend to forget about our people. We tend to not really understand they're human, right? And so it says in your book that when we actually value our people, they are 6 times more engaged with us. So one thing that I'm going to continue to do is, of course, acknowledge my people, right? In that way. But I'm not always doing that because I get so caught up. So I really want to be, and I encourage everyone to just be more intentional and put yourself in the shoes of your staff. And like you said earlier, Rachel, remember, we are all going through those things. And as leaders, we are too, but it's important to take care of ourselves and cultivate the connections, such as the people who are on the platform. They pour into me all the time, even through social media, right? So that we are now equipped and ready to take on the world of education. I'm telling you, we can do it when we're filled up, right?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. And I want to share that this week is a perfect week to show gratitude to those under our care. In fact, on Wednesday this week, on the 19th, it is ESP. So we are celebrating all of our education support personnel throughout our schools. That's our bus drivers, our paraeducators, our student assistants, our front office staff, the people who help our building to run, our custodial team. So that is a time for us to really pour into this important and critical group within our buildings. So if you want to spread joy this week, one thing I want you to do is to think about how you can celebrate your education support personnel throughout your whole building. So that's a charge that we're going to leave you with tonight. And I want you to think about and add one comment of something that you are ready to do this week. I see Constance says she's going to be intentional about writing notes to brag about all the great things that people are doing. You are right. It costs nothing, but it means the world to the people who receive those notes. So, Constance, thank you for sharing that great idea. And I'd love to hear what other people are planning to do. Now, this is our last minute, so I want to close very quickly by sharing our next 2 episodes of Strong Start Sunday are all going to be in December. We have December 7th. That one is about reclaiming your calendar. And we know that was a good chunk of this conversation, but we're going to go in more in depth in there. So December 7th at 7 o'clock, you'll be back to join us on Strong Start Sundays about reclaiming your calendar. And on December 21st, which is right before our winter break, we're going to do Unplug to Recharge. Unplug to recharge and leading yourself back, getting ready for the new year. So thank you again so much for this amazing time together. Shout out to Dr. Matthew for coming on and just bringing your wealth of experience and just wonderful spirit. Every time we see you, we're so glad to have you here. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Hey, Tangi, so good to see you. It's just wonderful to see all of you who have come on. We're just so very appreciative. We hope you're walking away ready for another great week ahead. And we'll see you December 7th and December 21st. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.